You've watched Tiger Woods hit a driver. That crack, that blur where the club head disappears through the ball and reappears wrapped around his shoulders. You know it doesn't look like your swing. And you felt it too, standing on a range, swinging harder, gripping tighter, and watching the ball go nowhere. Here's what I found after months of digging. That speed isn't strength. Tiger in his prime swung a smaller frame than half the men at your local course, and he generated more clubhead speed than nearly anyone alive. The secret is a motion older than television, described in physics, written down in 1957, and then quietly buried under a mountain of paid lessons and plastic training aids. It's a whip, not a hit, a whip. And the trail to it runs straight through a book published in 1994 by a nuclear physicist who never taught a single golf lesson in his life. If you own a set of clubs and a backyard, you already have everything you need to feel this by the weekend. You don't need a coach. You don't need new equipment. You need to understand one thing that got taken from you. I first got suspicious on a cold Tuesday at a public range outside my town. There was a thin, older man 2 stalls down, maybe 70 years old, arms like broom handles. He wasn't swinging hard. He looked almost lazy. And his ball flight was 20, 30 yards past mine every single time. I was younger, I was stronger, I was working twice as hard. I stood there watching him and thought, what does he know that I don't? That question cost me nothing to ask. Answering it changed everything I believed about the golf swing. Let me show you what I found first, and then I'll take you back through exactly how I found it. Because the order matters. The order is where they hit it. Start with the aftermath. Start with what a whip actually is. Because the moment I understood this, I couldn't unsee it in every great player who ever lived. Take a bullwhip. You move the handle slowly. Just the handle, but the tip breaks the sound barrier. That crack you hear is the tip moving faster than 700 miles an hour, and you generated it with a lazy flick of your wrist. The energy travels down the whip, and as it moves from the thick, heavy handle to the thin, light tip, it speeds up, massively. Nobody swings the tip. You swing the handle, and the tip takes care of itself. Now here's the part that stopped me cold. A golf club is a whip. Your body is the handle. The club head is the tip. And almost every amateur on earth is trying to swing the tip. The proof isn't opinion, it's physics. And it has a name. The double pendulum. Picture 2 rods connected by a hinge. The first rod is your arms, swinging from your shoulder. The second rod is the club, hinged at your wrists. When you swing down, if you keep that wrist hinge intact and let it release late, all on its own, the energy dumps from the big slow arm into the small fast club at exactly the right instant. The club head accelerates like the tip of a whip. That's the whoosh. That's the crack. I tested this on myself before I believed a word of it. I took a club, I made my normal swing, and I filmed it. My wrists released early. Right from the top, casting the club out like I was throwing a bucket of water. Then I forced myself to hold the hinge longer, to feel the club lag behind my hands, and let it snap only at the bottom. Same effort, same body. The ball jumped off the face like it was a different club. So the first clue snapped into place. The great players aren't stronger. They're not hitting harder, they're whipping. And I was hitting. But that only cracked open a much bigger question, and it's the one that started to make me angry. If this is so simple, if it's physics, if a bullwhip does it automatically, then why did nobody ever teach it to me this way? Why did I spend years and real money learning something else entirely? Therefore, I went looking for who profited from me not knowing. Here's where the trail turns dark, and I want you to follow it carefully, because this is the part that explains the last 40 years of your golf game. Somewhere along the way, golf instruction stopped teaching motion and started teaching positions. Think about every lesson you ever paid for, Every magazine tip you ever read. Top of the backswing, get the club here. Halfway down, get the club there. Impact position, hold this angle. Freeze. Check, freeze, check. You were taught golf like it was a series of photographs you had to hit one by one. But a whip has no positions. A whip is one continuous flow of energy. The second you try to place a whip into a fixed position halfway through its motion, you kill the crack, dead. You cannot freeze frame your way into speed. And that is the exact thing that got sold to you, over and over, for decades. Now, who benefits when the swing gets broken into 30 checkpoints? The person selling you the lessons to fix 30 checkpoints. The company selling you the training aid for each broken piece. The subscription app that films your positions and tells you you're still wrong. There's no money in telling a golfer the truth, is a single flowing whip that you feel, not a puzzle you assemble. There's endless money in convincing you your swing is a machine with 30 broken parts. And I can prove the simple version came first, because I found it in print. 1957. Ben Hogan, one of the finest ball strikers who ever lived, published a book called 5 Lessons, The Modern Fundamentals of Golf. People treat it like scripture now, but almost nobody actually does what it says. Hogan described the downswing as a chain reaction. Hips first, then the shoulders, then the arms, then, last of all, the hands and the club releasing like the end of a whip. He literally described the sequence of a whip cracking, and he warned, in plain language, against using the hands and wrists too early. He called the correct feeling one where the club felt like it was being pulled through, not pushed. Hogan knew. In 1957 he knew. So the knowledge wasn't lost because nobody discovered it. It was lost because it got buried under something more profitable. Something you could charge for again and again. That was the villain coming into focus. Not one evil man. An entire industry that learned it, makes more money teaching you a complicated swing you can never finish learning than a simple whip you could feel in an afternoon. But knowing I'd been sold positions instead of motion only deepened the mystery. Because here's what nagged at me. If the whip is a chain reaction, hips first, then shoulders, then arms, then club, in what exact order does the chain fire? And how fast? I needed numbers. I needed the actual measured sequence, or this was just poetry. So I kept pulling the thread, and it led me somewhere I never expected. To laboratories, to force plates, and to men in white coats measuring the swing down to fractions of a second. Let me take you there, because this is where the whip stops being a feeling and becomes a measured fact. There's a body of research now, some of the best of it coming out of the Titleist Performance Institute, that has done nothing but measure how the fastest golfers on earth sequence their swings. They call it the kinematic sequence. And when I first read the actual data, my jaw dropped, because it confirmed every word Hogan wrote in 1957, except now it was in cold hard numbers. Here's what they found. In a great swing, 4 body segments speed up and then slow down in a precise order on the way down. First the pelvis, then the chest, then the arms, then the club. Each segment fires, reaches peak speed, and then decelerates. And this is the part almost nobody understands. Each part slows down on purpose so it can hand its energy up the chain to the next part. The hips slow so the chest can speed up. The chest slows so the arms can speed up. The arm slows so the club can fly. That's the whip. Handle slows, tip cracks. It's the exact same physics as the bullwhip, measured in a lab, in real professionals, over and over. And here are the numbers that show you what it's worth. A typical weekend golfer swings a driver somewhere around 80 to 90 miles an hour. A tour professional swings it around 113 to 120 miles an hour. Tiger Woods in his prime was measured up over 120 and even 129 miles an hour with the driver. Now part of that is fitness, But study after study shows that the release of the wrists alone, the late crack of the whip at the bottom of the swing, can account for a huge share of clubhead speed. Some physics models attribute roughly a third of your total clubhead speed to that final wrist release. A third. Free speed, sitting in your own wrists, that you were told to freeze into a position. I tested the sequence next, and this is where it got personal. I'd always started my downswing with my arms and shoulders. Everybody does. It feels natural. You want to hit the ball, so you throw your hands at it. But when I forced myself to start the downswing with my lower body, to feel my weight shift and my hips turn while my arms and the club were still finishing the backswing, something bizarre happened. The club felt like it fell into a slot on its own. It felt lazy. It felt like I wasn't trying. And the ball went farther than it ever had. That was the clue clicking so hard I heard it. The reason the thin old man at the range outdrove me was that he wasn't trying to create speed. He was creating the sequence and letting speed happen. I was trying to be the whip. He was cracking it. But now I had a new problem, and maybe you're already feeling it. This all sounds great for someone who can go take lessons, spend money on a launch monitor, hire a coach with force plates. What about the rest of us? What about the person who just wants to play better with the clubs already in the garage, without spending another dime? Because I'll be honest, the more I researched, the more I noticed every answer online eventually tried to sell me something. A device, a program, a subscription, and that made me suspicious all over again. So let me stop here and talk directly to you, the person who is done being sold things. Because this is the part I care about most, and it's the part they never make easy to find. You do not need a single new tool to learn the whip. You do not need a lesson. You do not need a launch monitor or an app or a training aid with a battery. Everything I'm about to give you works in your backyard, in your garage, even in a hallway if the ceiling is high enough, with the exact clubs you already own. I know, because I learned it that way, standing on a patch of grass behind my house with an old 7-iron. Here's the first thing, and it's almost too simple to believe. Take any club and turn it upside down. Grip it down by the head, so you're holding the metal, and the light grip end is now swinging free at the bottom. Now make easy, smooth swings back and forth. You'll hear a whoosh as the light end whips through the air. That whoosh is your whip. That's the sound of the tip cracking. Now listen to where the whoosh happens. If you're casting releasing early like I used to, the loudest whoosh comes out early, before the bottom of your swing, up near your back leg. That means you dumped all your speed before you'd reach the ball. If you sequence it right, hold the lag, let it release late, the loudest whoosh moves forward, down past where the ball would be, out toward the target. Your only job with this drill is to make the whoosh happen later and later, past the impact point. No positions, no checkpoints, just chase the sound. Your body figures out the sequence on its own to make that sound move forward, because that's what bodies do. They find the efficient path when you give them a target. I did this drill 50 swings a night for 2 weeks in my backyard. It cost me nothing, and it did more for my swing than years of paid tips. Now picture yourself doing exactly that tonight, hearing that whoosh finally move forward past the ball, and wishing someone had laid out every one of these fixes in the right order, instead of leaving you to stumble on them one at a time. That's the whole reason I put together the complete golf fix system, along with First Fix and Precision Golf. First Fix walks you through the 6 fundamentals most instructors skip, so you can diagnose exactly where your shots are leaking, run a 15-second grip audit that changes your ball flight right away, and finally do your alignment sequence in the correct order. Precision Golf goes deeper for anyone past the basics, decoding what your misses are really telling you, and explaining impact physics so the adjustments actually stick. And here's the free check you can do tonight. Before you spend a thing, grab any club, turn it upside down, and listen for where your whoosh happens. That alone tells you if you're casting early or cracking late, exactly like the pros. The fastest way to get the books is to scan the QR code right there on your screen, or go to the link in the description or the pinned comment. Your fundamentals are costing you strokes every single round you play right now, and that's a bill that keeps running until you fix it. So here's the second free thing I promised you, the drill that forces the sequence whether your body wants to or not. Here's the second free thing, the step drill. Set up to a ball or even to nothing and take your normal backswing. But as you start down, lift your front foot slightly and step down onto it, planting it, just before your hands come down. That step forces your lower body to start the downswing first. It forces the sequence, hips before hands. You literally cannot do it in the wrong order if you step. Baseball hitters do this naturally. Great golfers do a quieter version of it every swing. And you can teach your body the feeling for free, in your living room, without a ball, tonight. And here's the third, for the person who thinks they're too stiff or too old for any of this. Slow everything down. Make the smallest, slowest swing you can, and just feel the club head lagging behind your hands on the way down. Feel it trailing, and feel it catch up and pass your hands only at the very bottom. That trailing feeling, that sense of the club being late, is the single most important sensation in the golf swing, and you can rehearse it at 1 mile an hour in a chair if you have to. Speed is not the thing you practice. The sequence is the thing you practice. Speed is the reward. The old man at the range wasn't strong. He wasn't young. He'd simply kept a feel that most people paid to have coached out of them. And it made me wonder how far back this feel really went, and whether someone had ever proven it, not with feel, but with pure mathematics, in a way that could never be argued with or sold around. That question is what led me to the man at the center of everything, the last piece, the one that made every other clue lock into place. His name was Theodore Jorgensen. He was not a golf pro. He was a physicist, a serious one, a man who had worked on some of the most advanced science of the 20th century. And late in his life, he became obsessed with one question: what actually happens, in the language of physics, during a golf swing? Not what it feels like, not what a coach says, what the equations say. In 1994, he published his findings in a book called The Physics of Golf. And in it, he laid out the golf swing as exactly what I'd been circling around this whole time. A double pendulum. The arm as the first pendulum, the club as the second, hinged at the wrist. Then he did the thing nobody selling lessons ever wants to do. He ran the numbers on what happens if you release that wrist hinge early versus late. What he found is the whole secret in one clean fact. When he calculated a swing where the wrists held their angle and released late naturally, letting the physics do the work, the club head reached its maximum speed at exactly the right place, at the ball. And when he modeled a golfer trying to force the release early, using muscle to throw the club head down from the top, the club head actually arrived at the ball slower. Slower. The harder you try to force speed early, the less speed you have at impact. Read that again, because it's the thing that was taken from you. Trying harder makes you slower. The whip only works if you let it. Jorgensen even described how a passive wrist, one that simply lets go at the right moment rather than actively snapping, produces the ideal result. The energy transfers up the chain on its own, if you get out of its way. He proved, with mathematics in 1994, exactly what Hogan described with feel in 1957, and exactly what the labs measured decades later. 3 separate roads, 1 destination. The swing is a whip, you are the handle, and your entire job is to build the sequence and then let go, and trust that the tip will crack on its own. That is the finale. That is the whole thing. And here's how you use it this weekend. All of it together, at no cost. Go out back with 1 club, upside down, and make the whoosh move forward. Pass the ball, 30 swings. That trains the late-release Jorgensen proved is faster. Then flip the club right side up and do the step drill, 10 swings, planting your front foot to start each downswing with your lower body. That trains the kinematic sequence the labs measured. Then hit some easy balls, or swing at a dandelion, and think one single thought. Not 30 positions. 1. Let the club be late. Feel it trail your hands and crack at the bottom. That's it. That's the swing of the greatest players who ever lived, and it was hiding in plain sight the whole time, in a 1957 book you can still buy, and a 1994 physics text most golfers have never heard of. The old man at the range didn't outdrive me because he was better than me. He outdrove me because he never let anyone convince him the swing was complicated. He kept the whip, and now so do you. I want to tell you what this really felt like when it finally clicked, because it wasn't about golf. It was about realizing that the simplest, truest version of something can be quietly replaced by a version you have to keep paying for, and that you can just take the simple one back. I didn't learn a new swing. I recovered an old one that was mine all along. If you're the kind of person who wants to see the whole trail and not just the highlight, who wants to know why a thing works and where it came from before you trust it, then you already think the way this whole investigation was built to reward. So let me ask you something specific, and I really do want you to answer this one. Go do the upside-down club drill, right now, even in your living room, and tell me where your whoosh happens. Early, back by your leg, or late, out past where the ball would be. Type early or late in the comments, and tell me your driver distance now, so we can all watch it change. This audience never comments unless I ask, so I'm asking you directly. Leave it below. I read them. And if you want to keep pulling threads like this, follow along, because this channel is for people who are done being sold the complicated version of simple things. We find the method that worked before somebody figured out how to charge you for it, and we hand it back. Next time, I'm chasing down why the longest hitters in history all seem to press their weight into the ground a certain way, just before the club comes down, a move you can feel in your bare feet on a kitchen floor, that nobody explained to me until I found it buried in old footage. It changes everything about where your power actually comes from, and it costs nothing to try. Stick with me, and we'll crack that one together too. Now go find your whoosh. It was always yours. Before you go, here's what comes next. This video showed you what the whip is. Inside the Practical Wisdom Circle, I walk you through the full whip method, drill by drill, so you can feel it in your own backyard. And if something doesn't click, you ask me, and I answer you myself, in plain words. You belong here with thousands of old ways folks like you. Just point your phone at the code, cancel anytime, come join me. Now that you feel how the great players whip the club, let's put that same power into your driver. This next lesson shows you one simple move that finally gets your tee shots long and straight. It's starting right here.